And George with Portsmouth boss John Mousinho. John, how are you? How's the international break been for you and the players?
Yeah, it's been good. A good opportunity to get a bit of rest into the lads, having had a relatively busy start to the season. I think we've gone fairly heavy at the boys since they've returned back at the back end of June. I had a really good chunk of time in, so it was nice to give them a couple of days off, and then when we did report back, to have a good couple of training stints, 2-3 day blocks, which we don't normally have during the season. The most we ever get is a free week, so having those 2 free weeks in the international break is always really positive.
And what are your main kind of takeaways from the summer business? All the players you brought in, a busy deadline day. How do you reflect on it all?
Yeah, we're pretty pleased with where we are. I think ultimately the proof's in the pudding. We'll see how we are as the season goes on. We always sign players and with the best of intentions. Some work out, some don't, and hopefully we've got more right than wrong this summer. And yeah, certainly so far in terms of what we've managed to bring in, we're pretty pleased.
And Connor Chaplin coming back to the club, how great was that to get over the line?
Yeah, one of those that we didn't expect to be able to make happen. Certainly earlier in the window, he was never a player that was on our radar. Came up very, very late, and one that as soon as the name was floated, we knew we'd have to do everything we could to get the deal done. Thankfully, Ipswich were brilliant with allowing Connor to come over. It would have been a very, very easy one for Ipswich to keep hold of, even with limited playing time. But I think for everything that he's done for the football club and how much it means to him to come back here, it was a really sort of beneficial deal for both parties.
And how's he settled in, and what have your reflections, kind of an assessment of him, been so far since he's had the time to train in with the lads?
Yeah, naturally he's fitting really well. He's really familiar with the football club. He's familiar with a lot of the faces that are still here, so that's not going to be an issue for Connor in terms of the transition. And football-wise, we're getting a player that played in the Premier League last season. The previous season to that was one of the outstanding players in the Championship. I think scoring 13 or 14 goals, nearly playing every single game. And the year before that as well, part of that side that won League One. Very, very convincingly. I think Connor ended up scoring 20 plus goals there as well. So we know what type of player we're getting. If we didn't already know, because of the history that he had at Portsmouth ever since he's left the club, I think he's gone on to even bigger and better things. So really excited to have that here.
How's the health and fitness of the squad? Anything new kind of popped up, and some of the international coming back? Is everyone back and ready to go?
Yeah, we've got a sort of fully fit squad as per the last squad with Preston. So none of the players that were fit there have picked up any injury worries. The lads that have gone away with international duty, we haven't had many minutes played, but everybody's fine in terms of the injuries. So I think by the time we factor everybody in terms of the new signings as well, we're going to have to leave a few out on Sunday, which is, I suppose, a good position for a head coach to be in. It's always better than having to scrap around and fill a squad.
And obviously the Australian players coming back as well, a lot of travelling. Are they ready to go? And I saw that Segicic wasn't part of the Aussie squad 2 days ago. Is he okay?
He's fine, and yeah, the players there, they're used to the travel, so it's one of those things we just have to get over and get on with. And yeah, there's plenty of players that have had to travel around the world. I think unfortunately for us, because we've got such a heavy Australian influence, sometimes they cluck up a few more air miles than others, but they're absolutely fine.
How's Marlon Pack?
Marlon's good. He's been back doing a little bit of training this week, so he's progressing really, really well. Whether he's involved on Sunday or not, I don't know, but he's in a much better position we thought he would be at this stage.
I'm sure he'd love to play in a game of the magnitude of Sunday as well.
Yeah, he obviously has grown up as a Portsmouth fan and a season ticket holder, and I think he's been to plenty of these games, never played in one of them, but he's been to plenty of the derbies, and I'm sure he'll be very, very excited to be involved in any capacity.
Is it kind of intentional bringing back some of these guys that have maybe been at the club before or are from the area? They get what it means. You look at John Swift, Connor Chaplin, Marlon Pack. Is that something that you see as a benefit and a plus to have around the squad?
It's definitely a benefit. It's not something that we go out and look to recruit intentionally. We just look to recruit good players. I think it just so happens that in Connor's case, for example, they were probably the only club that he was going to come to leave Ipswich. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think for someone like Connor, it was a case of either staying at Ipswich or coming down here or back down here to the south coast. Marlon has been in the building since I walked in 2.5 years ago, and he's been absolutely outstanding. He gets the club, like I said, season ticket holder, absolutely loves the area, loves the club, and I think that it helps. I think it does help. There's it's definitely not the sole criteria for which we want to actually recruit players, but having that understanding of the football club and what it means to everyone, I think makes a lot of sense. And John's exactly the same. He's a player that he's from the area, knows the football club really well, has always wanted to come back and play at Fratton and play for Portsmouth at some point in his career, and he's managed to do it.
Give us your thoughts on the start to the season. 7 points from 4 games, a really kind of solid and decent start to be encouraged by.
Yeah, I think we think similar things within the football club. An okay start, satisfactory. We feel we've squandered a couple of points at the very least, but if we compare where we are this year to where we were last year, we're definitely in an improved position, which for us in sort of the early stages of us being back in the Championship, I don't think is a terrible comparison to make. Albeit we did have a very, very poor start to last season. So yeah, we feel like we've made a solid start. There's plenty of big games coming up, and pretty much every game in the Championship, to be honest, is one of those big games, and it's one of those against a tough opponent. There's no easy ones, regardless of who it is. We found that out last year. So I think we're fairly satisfied with where we are, but we want to build on that.
When I say South Coast derby, Southampton against Portsmouth, what comes to mind for you?
Well, I've always been aware of the derby and the magnitude of the derby, being a football fan. I probably never quite understood it until I actually signed for the football club, and I think probably we'll understand it a lot more at sort of 3:00 on Sunday. And I think it's all part of being part of it. It's one thing that the football club, certainly the league, hasn't had for so many years. I think 13 years since the last meeting of these two football clubs in the league. So it's been a very, very differing journey for us, nearly going into liquidation, going into administration, and everything that's come with it in terms of building back for the football club. And I think that's heightened the anticipation, and that's definitely heightened the expectation around the game on Sunday, and quite rightly. And yeah, I think it's going to be a brilliant occasion, and certainly one that we're all looking forward to.
Have you had any fans kind of stopping you and letting you know? I'm sure when you first came to the club that it's something that people mentioned, but since you've been back in the same division, and it seems like the two clubs have never been closer. Has anyone kind of come up to you, and this week as well, stopped you just to say make sure you beat them, kind of thing? Do you get that at all?
Yeah, it's pretty much all I get. So it's pretty much all I've had since since I walked into the club 2.5 years ago. I think first of all there was always the talk in the background, but there was always a division that separated the two, and probably didn't look like it was a fixture that was particularly imminent. And then at some point last year, I think when we knew what the picture in the Premier League was like fairly early, it was just a case of us making sure we stayed in the league and stayed in the Championship, and we knew the fixture was going to be one that was apparent. So everybody's been talking about it since the fixtures were out. I think everybody is extremely excited for the game, and it's pretty much all that anyone speaks about at the minute.
What have you made of Will Still and his journey so far? A young coach coming from the French league. This is his first job in England. Have you been aware of him kind of since before he was at Southampton? Vague awareness. I think as soon as you take a job in football, my awareness of the French league is pretty minimal. When we were in League One, I think I knew League One pretty well. In the Championship, it then flipped over to the Championship. So, a vague awareness in the background, but one of those things that doesn't really sort of fill my priorities. Any kind of feeling that you're catching Saints at a good time? They've obviously signed quite a lot of new players that have come in that they're pinning their hopes on. It's still fairly early in this season, and Will Still's only had a minimal kind of amount of time with the squad. You've been with this kind of group now for a long time, and you've added some players as well. But do you feel like maybe this is a good time to play Saints?
I don't necessarily see it that way. I think they spent a huge amount of money over the summer. I think now had a long period of managing to sort of bed everyone in. So especially after the international break. So the way I see it, I don't think there's ever a good time to be playing any opposition in the Championship, because I think every single side is extremely dangerous on their day. Every side's at it, and it's definitely the case for a side that we're going to play on Sunday, who, like I said, huge investment over the summer. I suppose a massive amount of pressure to try and get back into the Premier League. Very, very different pressures for us. So I think it's going to be a brilliant game. But I don't think there's ever any good time to play any side in the Championship.
What's your thoughts on the atmosphere that you guys will face? Have you done any kind of preparation for that kind of I guess what will be an intense and hostile atmosphere against you guys on Sunday?
I don't think there's any too much preparation in terms of what you actually can do. We're aware of it. We've spoken about it internally. We don't want to get caught by surprise. But I think that there's only so much we can do. There's not a huge amount we can do on the training pitch. One thing I would say is that on the opposite end of the spectrum, I suppose we've always been able to experience those hostile atmospheres at Fratton Park, albeit obviously the home fans are with us. There are plenty of difficult grounds that we've gone to over the years, and we've managed to stand up to most of them. I know this is going to be different. I know it's going to be completely different, and the atmosphere in the ground and the feeling around the game is just going to be on a completely different level to anything that we've experienced so far. I think this season, certainly anything I've experienced as a head coach. I don't think anything can properly prepare you for it, other than making sure we are ultra professional, making sure we expect it, and then making sure we actually use that to our advantage. If I speak to any professional footballer, what they want to do is play in big games. They want to play in front of crowds. They want to play in front of those sort of hostile atmospheres and relish it.
Are you confident you guys can go there and get the result that you need?
Yeah, we're as confident as we are in any other game. We've got massive respect for the opposition, and we know how dangerous they can be on their day. Like I said, we're playing one of the sides in the Championship that are favourites for promotion, and quite rightly. So we've got to make sure that we go and approach it in the right way. We have to make sure we make it as difficult a game as possible, and try and do everything we can to play the way that we want to play. So, a really exciting game, I think, for everyone to look forward to.
And just finally, what would a win mean to you, this group and the city of Portsmouth?
I think certainly in terms of where we are in the league at the moment, and if we just take that in isolation, it's a massively important game, as it would be for any game that we're speaking about, and it's worth 3 points like every other league game. So we can speak about it from that perspective. I think if you then sort of flip onto that other group, the city of Portsmouth, what it means to them, and what it means actually to everybody connected to the football club, it does mean a lot more than that. And I don't think there's any point in not acknowledging that. It means just a huge amount to everybody here, including all the players and including all the staff. So I can guarantee we're going to do everything we possibly can to win the game, and we'll try and do that. We'll try and come away with 3 points, and I think that's going to pretty much affect everyone's weeks and everyone's years and everyone's seasons, definitely. So we're fully aware of that, and hopefully we can put on a good display.
Thanks for your time. Best of luck.
Cheers.